Domestic violence in NFL. Here we go again. And upon further review, why is the Total Sports Network not connected with me? Well, I got 5 reasons to why it's not. Cole Sportz presents On the Daily. Well, I'm so glad that I'm coming to you on your iPad, iPhone, Android, smart TV, or computer. Cole Johnson here on The Daily is what's on tap, and we're going to get right down to it. Topic of the day, please. So we go out to suburban Atlanta. Milton is the city. The house is one shady McCoy's or LeSean McCoy's. And there was a home invasion yesterday that was performed in the home. In it was jewelry that was taken and a woman that was considered an estranged girlfriend of one McCoy. Delicia Cordon was the person who was the victim, alleged victim of this home invasion, and she was beaten to within an inch of her life. Or so an Instagram post with pictures posted suggests. So an anonymous person who posted this on Delicia Cordon's behalf showed a picture of how Delicia would look healthy and allegedly how she looked after she was beaten in the home invasion. And in that Instagram post, it was alleged that the person who beat her was LeSean McCoy himself. So in this domestic dispute, we now have the NFL in hot water yet again. The NFL quickly said that they are investigating the matter, but it's too early to say if he did it or not, or who is guilty and who is not. But what I do know are these things. McCoy said that he was in Miami during the time of the home invasion. The anonymous alleged person who posted the Instagram post said that this was something that LeSean would do. He would beat on her, and not only that, beat on the children he has and the dog. And that there was no forced entry into the home invasion. So these questions arise. Number one, was this something that LeSean McCoy signed off on? Number two, if they're estranged, why is she still living in his house? And three, if he has been putting eviction notice papers on her for a year, as the ESPN story displayed, because she supposedly has been needing to get out of his space since this time last year, why is she still in that space this time this year? I will say this. If it is true that McCoy did heavy-hand Delicia, Cole Sportz, VIPs, and those who are affiliated and associated with this show, brand, and network never condones at any juncture or stretch of imagination a man abusing the privilege of his strength and putting his hands on a woman. To this person, that is a sign of weakness. A man should never heavy-hand a woman under any circumstances whatsoever. And you can give me that, but what if you're defending yourself? Well, yes, as a man, you should defend yourself, obviously, against any and everybody. But you just go off and hit a woman. A man should never do that. So, Shady, if you did do that, your career is done. Period. If you didn't, fight them charges, man. Fight them. Because this leads to the last question I pose. Why is it that all of you I won't say all of you, but why is it that many of you athletes, I don't care what sport it is, choose women who may not really want you for you, but want you for what you have, and then get caught up in situations that you ordinarily wouldn't? Go to bed with that thought. And that is your topic of the day. When I come back, the Total Sports Network. Why is it not connecting with you? Well, I got 5 reasons as to why and 1 reason why it can again. And upon further review. Coming up on tomorrow's On the Daily, we're going to talk about Kermit Washington. Yes, the same guy that 41 years ago laid out Rudy Tomjanovich with a right hook. He got in trouble with the law. How? I'll explain it to you in that episode. And then we're going to award the Adult of the Week. Look forward to hearing what you have to say about this selection. But as for tomorrow, for today, I guess I want to address a first world problem. You see, there was this network that was created in 1979, and they did things that no other network was doing. And now we're not seeing that same commitment to doing what they did to get their name known. I'll discuss that and the reasons why they are no longer connecting with you. And upon further review. Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. For those who did not know what the acronym of ESPN stood for, that is what the letters are. And I will get to one of those letters later. But this was a network which was vanguard. It was innovative. It was creative. It thought of things that no other network was thinking of and thinking about. And the stuff that the main big boys were thinking about, well, they took that and expanded it further. But the network that is not now. And why is it? Why is it that I'm hearing more and more people say, well, I used to love ESPN, but I don't really connect with it anymore? There's 5 reasons as to why I believe that is the case. Number 1, the network is relying on the wrong type of talent. Take, for instance, Michelle Beadle. Now, she has had 2 stints with the network. She has had 2 stints on Sports Nation. She now hosts NBA Countdown. And she now also is 1/3 of Get Up. And it actually is that particular show that has made me think something's wrong with the network. You got to connect, and they're not. Which leads me to my next point. In wrestling, there's a term called pop. And when that pop happens, it's basically an explanation of when a good guy comes to the arena and the crowd loves it and they explode. And it sounds like a pop because it's that loud. Seemingly, the corporate entity and the talent seem to want to pop each other. They seem to want to entertain one another. And I'm seeing more and more of that than I'm seeing of reaching out to the populace and seeing what does work with them. Then there is just straight up evil. That's number 3. It was evident in the SportsCenter 6 when you saw a show that started off his and hers light, and it slowly but surely progressed back to the normal Sports Center show. And I guess it was a sign of the network not really trusting the two of them and their chemistry and their way of entertaining. Because in a sense, that's what's missing. You know, acts that are unique to the network. I'll get to that point later. So number 4 is being stuck in a box. Now, mind you, this is a network that thought outside the box in the 80s. And they expanded it further. When they covered baseball, they did Baseball Tonight. Now, they didn't have the entertaining figures of it, but the program itself was interesting. And the thought process behind it was interesting because it made us get a more comprehensive look in baseball. You know, sort of like This Week in Baseball, only daily and an hour long. And then there was NFL Prime Time. One of the most ingenious shows ESPN ever produced. Helmed by one Chris Berman and fashioned best when this linebacker from the Denver Broncos, freshly retired off the gridiron, stood in front of the camera and displayed the most intelligent football takes that I think we have ever heard. And that man ended up becoming Tom Jackson, and those two worked together for 25 years. And it was almost as if it was an act that could have traveled. This duo played well off of each other. Chris fed Tom, and Tom knew how to feed Chris. And neither one of them stepped on each other's toes. They both were each other's biggest advocates. And that's what ESPN to me represents, or supposedly represents. And this leads me to my last point. Number 5. I mentioned earlier with Chris Berman. There's no entertaining figures there. You got some that are mildly entertaining, like Scott Van Pelt. You have some who, when the gloves are off, they could be a little bit more entertaining. Michael Smith, Jamel Hill can be. But it seems to be a restricted understanding of fun. Remember I said E is the first letter of this acronym. E stands for entertainment. Well, if you're a network that's entertaining and you are supposedly entertaining and you're not, that's a problem. So you need figures like Chris Berman. You need figures like the late Stuart Scott. You need figures even like Charlie Steiner, who he didn't have a shtick, but he was like an everyman. He was like the one of us type of figures where he would read sports and do it well and he would be professional, but there were things that would just simply get his goat and make him laugh. Hence, Carl Lewis when he was singing the national anthem in the Meadowlands. And at the end of the video, Charlie, all he could do was just laugh. And he, in the middle of his laughter, said, okay, that was sung by Francis Scott off key. That is what's missing with ESPN programming. And this leads me to the point that I think ESPN needs to do, is they need to relax the strings. They need to get entertaining figures. You can be a journalist and be entertaining. That's how the network got to where it is. Because you had figures that captured your interest, that made you say, wow, that was an interesting way of thinking about that or going about that. I want to see this again. That's what's missing. And it doesn't have to be. It's not that hard. Find entertaining figures and let them be who they are. You did that with Stuart Scott. You did that with Chris Berman. You can do that again. It's not too late. And yeah, there's others who are carving into your territory. CBS Sports, NBC Sports, Fox Sports 1. I get that. But you still are the #1 sports network. And you still can stick to the script that you all created back in the 70s, into the 80s, and into the 90s. And as you celebrate your 40th anniversary next year, maybe you need to think long and hard about that. And hopefully you will. Because if you don't, ESPN will be considered an endangered species. And as big as you all are now, with the layouts that you all have had the last couple of years, I don't think you can afford to be considered a dinosaur. If you haven't liked this episode or any episode that you have seen thus far, you know the drill. And you know what I'm pointing to. Subscribe to Cole Sportz on the daily, Monday through Saturday. One of these will be yours to view at your leisure and pleasure. And speaking of leisure and pleasure, go to Instagram at Cole Sportz with a Z. Question of the day is waiting for you. And the question today surrounds itself with ESPN and what you think. And speaking of what you think, I want to know, what do you think? I'm here. I'm on social media everywhere. Cole Sportz with a Z on Instagram, at Cole Sportz with a Z on Facebook, at Cole_Sports with a Z on Twitter, and ColeSportsWithAZ.com online. And if you feel the need to comment below on this platform as well. Let me know what you think. And if you want to go long form with it, email me at info, that's INFO, at ColeSportsWithAZ.com. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your well wishes. Thank you for the love. Tell a friend to tell a friend to come and view sports entertainment the way you want it. And that's all the time I have. Thank you so much for joining me. And as I represent all the sportsmen and women all around the world, especially the sportsmen and sportswomen right now, I'm Cole Johnson, and this has been yet another installment and edition of Cole Sportz on the visual and on the daily.